Welcome to Chakra Savvy, the space where we explore how ancient wisdom meets modern life. Formerly Jess on the Mountain. I'm Jessica Goulding. Today is an especially significant day in America. So if you're listening to this on its release day, it is both the inauguration day and the day we honor the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So with so much happening, it feels like a real swirl of mixed energies, which sets the tone for today's conversation. And I think that's what the world is going to be like for a little while, swirly and full of change, maybe a long while. There are so many energies colliding and rising and falling, it can be quite head spinning. Thankfully, we have our practices to keep us grounded and steady, ready to take on action where called, observe where needed, and love big through it all. Sometimes I laugh a little when I hear ourselves say we live in very changing and unprecedented times, as if that isn't always the case. And it's true, change is always present. It is our only real constant. But change has energy too. And as energy, it will expand and contract. So think of your own life. You've had times of great change, possibly upheaval, and times where things were changing a little here and there, but the overall energy was consistency. I remember when Nick and I moved to Austin from New York City, it was a huge change. It was a cultural shift, a geographical shift, a financial shift, a relational shift, all of it. Then throw in the fact that, well, we were pregnant. And then you have change upon change upon change. Now, eventually, things settled into our new normal as we bought a house and found jobs. Then Nate arrived, and all our new pieces fell into place. And that is just the pattern of the world. Upheaval, things fall into place. Upheaval, things fall into place. We can have this at different parts in our lives in different times. Across the globe, personally, in your own towns, you know this. So those are the changes that Nick and I made on purpose. I'm sure your life is full of those. But sometimes big shifts come where we don't want them and when we would rather not have them. I mean, the pandemic comes to mind, for instance. So what happens to our energy when we go through change, whether or not we want it? It can find cracks in our energetic armor. If you think of yourself as surrounded by your own energetic force field or shield, it is not a solid thing. Some parts are strong energetically and they only let in what you want, but there's going to be a place where there's a bit of a breach in your armor. So let's face it, change, even purposeful or good change, it's a stressor, sometimes pretty major. And when there's stress, pressure builds and the energy seeks a way out. There's the crack. Think of the crack in it, like in a dam or a fault line in the earth. Stress builds and energy is released through that crack or that fault. And it's not our fault. We are nature. So it is with us as well. It's just a fact. We have faults, fault lines. I'm hoping you spent some time this past week oming to get to your baseline. Or you might say accessing your inner calm through the power of Om and Mudra, like we experienced last episode. So now that we have some access to that inner calm where we can let the outer world go and find that there is an inner hum, now we can take a moment to consider, where are our fault lines? Where do we go out when stress happens, or when we are enduring a time of great change and upheaval? Okay, it's time to pull out your non-judgmental observational hat again. We are once again gathering information. So remember, you are at your essence connected to source and made of the divine. This is just your material junk that we're working with. It just happens. This is just what happens when you take on an earth suit. We're working with self-study and right action to reduce the suffering that comes with inevitable change. I had intended this episode to be about discovering your energy zappers, as in who and what in your life is draining your life force. And this is still a valuable question I intend to get to. But before we can address the outside, I think it's necessary to address the inside. We need to know our tells, our habits and patterns of what we do when we feel stressed. What do you do? This way we can find out how we leak energy. And from there, find the zappers, right? So we're taking it bit by bit. This is my theory anyway. Ready to align your life with your highest intention? Join the Chakra Savvy community for Savvy Intentions, a free new moon intention setting meetup held online every month. Each session focuses on one chakra at a time, embracing the wisdom of the chakra system to guide your intentions and transform your life. This 1 hour online circle is your opportunity to connect with like-hearted souls who love yoga, chakras, and intentional living. Together, we'll harness the power of the new moon, the perfect time to set intentions and plant seeds for growth. Sign up for free today at jessgoulding.com/chakrasavvy. Let's align, transform, and thrive. One new moon and chakra at a time. That's jessgoulding.com/chakrasavvy. So now I'm going to ask you some questions. You might like to be able to write things down as they come up for you. This is similar to my chakra check-in self-assessment. I'll link to that in the show notes. That's a good PDF that you can just print and have and walk yourself through. These are going to be different questions, but if you've done it before, you might like to reference it. It's not exactly the same this time, but it certainly goes together. Or you might use it and see where you struggle a bit. That's likely where you leak your energy or where your fault line resides. So I'm going to take you through a little bit of a different set of questions, but it's a similar process as it is a self-assessment. So let's begin our exploration of where our energetic armor has a breach that might break open when times are tough. Okay? So I invite you, if possible, to sit still with your spine erect, your feet on the floor, or even sitting on the floor, somewhere you can have a sense and feel the earth beneath you. I want you to feel the steadiness of the earth beneath you. It can be helpful to wiggle your body a little bit, do a little bit of a twist, head roll, neck roll, kind of get any stiffness out, and then settle to stillness. So once you've done a little bit of asana, let's tune into the breath. Just feel your breath coming in through the nose, filling up your body from the belly down to your tailbone. And the exhale, a slow release, a letting go. Let some tension ease its way down, away from your shoulders and your back. Even lean back a little bit so that your core engages. Okay, so the breath in fills you with inner softness. And the breath out is just a surrendering and letting go of expectations and anything outside of this little exercise. Okay, just a couple more breaths in with softness, receptivity, out with surrendering. Good. And allow your attention to come into your heart center, kind of the inner sanctuary where that Om emanates. And I invite you to bring on an intention of self-compassion. We are not going into our fault lines because we seek out our faults, but rather compassionately discover where there's a little clink, a little breach that needs some filling in with loving compassion and understanding. Once you feel that you're ready, allow it to come to mind a time of great change. As the memory comes in, feel into and have a sense memory of that time. If nothing's coming or too many things are coming, you could just allow yourself to feel the way you feel during life crisis or transitions. What does that feel like in your body? What does that feel like in your emotional self? Okay, so imagine you're in a time of change. What happens? When life is changing, do you worry about money? Do you have a generalized fear? Maybe there's just a general fear or anxiety when there's change. Do you tend to eat too much or too little? Do you crave sugar? Maybe you drink too much alcohol or your drink of choice. Okay, when there's life changing, any of those apply to you. Okay, and then no judgments, just answer honestly, answer honestly. Not all questions will be relevant to you. Okay, now when there's change, do you feel extra sensitive? Do you have outbursts, right? Do you get fitful and fearful? Do you feel a lot of guilt when things get tough? Okay, what happens? The world is changing. Do you feel more emotional? You might say yes to all of these things. That's okay too. When the world is changing, do you have the energy to get your work done, or does it send you to bed? Right? Can you focus on your tasks and accomplish what you set out to do? Picture yourself and be honest. Does change just send you back to bed? What happens to your sense of self-love when you feel pressure? Are you able to receive love? Are you able to love others, or does your love kind of shut down? Do you pull in and stop loving when there's change happening? Are you able to love unconditionally through change, through upheaval? Can you maintain your sense of love? Maybe you can. Maybe it's hard. Okay, when things happen, do you rush to tell everyone? Right? Do you need to bend someone's ear, or do you retreat from engaging with others? Right? Do you go blah, 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 or do you quiet down? Or maybe do you lie and say you're fine when you're not? It's okay. Just acknowledge we all do some of these things. Do you say, I'm fine, when you're not fine? Continue to feel the sense in your body, what changes, and imagine when your life is shifting. Okay, when that happens in your memory, do you trust your gut, or do you seek outside counsel? Maybe you do both. But what if the advice goes against your intuition? What do you do? Right? Do you trust your intuition when things are changing? Do you become bullish in your opinions? Or are you able to take in new information and change your mind? Okay, how malleable are you in your opinions when things are changing? Okay, and finally, when times are rough, how is your faith? Do you believe things will be okay? In general, do you think you will come through and things will be okay? Do you believe that there is and can be good within the bad? If you're experiencing something that feels bad, do you have a sense that there is good there still, that something good will come or something good is coming? Do you stay connected to your prayer and meditation practices, or do they go by the wayside? Again, don't judge. Sometimes it's the first thing to go. Just know for yourself. Do you stay connected to prayer and meditation? I encourage you to take a moment or two and write some of these reflections. Remember, please don't judge. This is gathering information. Okay, they all go with different chakras, and we can get to that, but just don't judge. Just observe. Your patterns must be seen in order to shore up that leaky energy. We have to see the leaks before we can fix them, essentially, before we can address them, I should say. We're not in the fixing, we're in the addressing business. So you're doing it just right. Just observe. Okay, so this week, that is your homework. Just notice what you do when you feel stress or change. Be honest with yourself. You don't have to tell anybody about it. Just see. When deadlines approach or kids graduate from high school, what do you do? Okay, whatever it is, I invite you to bring it to our first Savvy Intentions New Moon online meetup on January 29th, 5 p.m. Central. We can all bring these things. And armed with this knowledge, you can set your intention around a new foundation. This month is Chakra 1, and we're considering our foundation, where we're stuck, and how we can soften the edges of resistance. It's the Aquarius new moon. It marks the start of a lunar cycle focused on envisioning a fresh future. It's perfect for setting ourselves up for 2025. We're going to break free from outdated structures. What do we envision for ourselves? You can join for free at jessgoulding.com/chakrasavvy. If you can't come live, you can join the Chakra Savvy community and have access to the recording to do on your own time. Membership there is free. It's also at jessgoulding.com/chakra savvy. Right? This is where we can take action together and be intentional. Once we know things, then it helps us pick a lane, it helps us choose what are we doing to go forward. And just keep in mind, I'm doing Savvy Intentions every month. So no matter when you're listening to this podcast, there is a Savvy Intention coming up. You can plan ahead and make this your most intention-driven year ever. And when things are changing, like they are, and like they will continue, we have to get super clear on what we want and where we're going. This is my offering to help with that. Be sure and tune in next week when we consider what lights us up. And what do we do with that? We'll also address some of these questions. Okay, so if you hadn't noticed, as I went through, those were questions from each chakra. So we'll go through maybe with a little key and say, this is this, this is this, this is this. But we're going to focus on what lights us up. It's just as important to know what makes our heart leap with joy as what makes our fault lines leak energy. It's just, we got to know both. And then over time, what do we do with that? As always, please review and subscribe to this podcast. Let's get more and more of us considering ourselves chakra savvy, and let's make a great impact in the world with that, right? We can be agents of really good change. So may you discover your fault lines with loving compassion. May you know yourself well, and may you navigate change with strength, ease, and grace. Much love.